Now it's going up. So we're recording. Hey, everybody, welcome to the Sustainiacs. I am Michael Vincent. I'm always the Sustainiac. My Sustainiac guest this time is Mr. Eddie Hightower. You may remember him from the Police Academy shows.
I knew you were going to say that. I knew somehow you were going to say
that. No, he indeed is not the one and the same.
No.
But he is. You are the Senior Vice President of Sustainability and Social Responsibility for Caliber Holdings, which is a collision center, which is interesting to me. I think it's a fantastic take on this type of show and what we're looking for, because normally we're talking to plastics producers or some NPO that's cleaning up the ocean here or this over there. But no, we're talking to a collision center that actually I have to take my truck to in 7 days because I accidentally backed up into a lady. God bless her. She was so scared. I think she thought I was going to jump out of my truck and beat her to death, is what she looked like, and it was totally my fault. When I came up and said, ma'am, I'm so sorry. It's my fault. Here's my driver's license. She was so happy. But let's get out of that and talk about what you do. Eddie, thank you for coming on the show, my friend.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the business. We hope that we live up to your expectations. So Caliber, we are a lot of people who have teenagers typically know us because they've had their kids in one of our shops. So we're the largest multi-shop operator.
Is that like your biggest demographic, teenagers?
It's one of them. And when I meet people who have teenagers and they find out who I work for, they go, "Oh, yeah, we know you."
Yeah.
And they have this kind of exasperated kind of tone in their voice. But,
do you have a frequent shopper's card? You get punch out a little hole each time. Maybe a free headlamp the next time or something.
Yes, we will take care of our repeat customers. We're happy to have them back. We just hope that nobody gets injured. We don't like injuries, but we can take care of your car and restore it to its pre-accident condition. But
a good decent fender bender is all you're looking for, right?
Yes, absolutely. And we did it last year. We fixed just under 2 million vehicles in the United States. Yeah.
So you guys are everywhere, right?
We're in 41 states. We have 1,700 locations, and there are 30,000 people who work for Caliber, making sure that we restore people to the rhythm of their life. That's what we're about.
Wow. And is it all auto body collision type of stuff? You don't do mechanic work and stuff like that? I'm not coming in to do my brakes unless they've been involved in an accident, right?
Yeah, look, we respect the specialists that are in that space. And so we have our spaces. We have a couple of lines of business, though, in addition to collision repair, which help you get your car back on the road, especially newer cars, which are really computers. That are wrapped in metal.
I understand.
Yeah, right.
If you got a 72 Buick LeSabre, I can work on it all day long, but not anymore. I can't do any of that stuff now. I mean, it used to be a carburetor, some pistons, and a distributor cap. I was good to go.
Yeah, now you have these very sophisticated backup cameras and lane changing sensors and what they call ADAS systems. So the advanced driver assistance systems are pretty much common on new cars these days. And those take a very specialized type of work to restore those, which we do as well. We have a line of business called ProTech, and it's the scanning business. And so we make sure that when we return a vehicle to you, and hopefully when we return your vehicle to you, that all your backup cameras and everything else, they work. We don't want you going off one of our lots and relying on one of those systems that's not working. And
my wife's got a Subaru, right? So there's so much in the front of those things with the cameras. You got a lot to worry about there if you've got damage to the windshield, et cetera, right?
And we have a glass business too. And that's one of the things we're seeing. About 40% of front windshields have to be calibrated as well because of exactly what you just said. They have those cameras, they have the rain sensors, they have all of that technology that's right there behind what used to just be a simple mirror. Like you say, it used to be something that's really easy to replace, and now it's sophisticated. So we focus on making sure that we can deal with the most advanced vehicles. We even have dedicated centers that just focus on electric vehicles. Those are also a highly specialized area of work for us, and requires a lot of investment and a lot of environmental concerns, also in working with battery electric vehicles.
Wow. Okay. That's crazy. Now people are like, okay, what is this? An auto body show or what? And it is not. It is one of those areas that people don't normally think of when they think of businesses and sustainability. Everybody thinks, okay, from my perspective, being in logistics for 36 years, right, is immediately trucking, spewing out diesel smoke, all that type of stuff, tires, all that type of stuff makes obvious sense. And plastics manufacturers, CPG, right? Your single use
Sure.
plastics from CPG, but auto body. Well, hello. I mean, your whole business is taking junk off a car and replacing it with you know good parts,
Yeah.
right? So what do you do with all that stuff that comes off of that car?
Yeah.
And so you need an Eddie Hightower. I love the fact that on your LinkedIn it says, quote, you can have all the right strategy in the world. If you don't have the right culture, you're dead, by the way.
100%.
Let's start there. I love that. I love that quote.
Yeah, that's we are a culture-driven company, and I've worked for many companies over my long career, and I will tell you that Caliber doesn't just put a poster on a wall and say, "Oh, okay, so we have a saying." No, it really drives our culture. We have our highest purpose is to restore the rhythm of your life, and if you have ever been in an auto accident, I have.
Yep.
It is you're going to places you didn't want to go. Like people don't drive by one of our shops, honestly, and go, I wonder what they do. Let me just stop in there and have a good time. It's
Yeah.
not. People are, something bad has happened in their life. They didn't want to be there. They're dealing with people they didn't want to deal with. And so our role is to make sure that we make that as the best experience that it can be in a really trying time. And we know that people's cars are their babies. These are some of their largest single investments that people make. And
Yeah.
so we understand that, and we know that people will come in and they'll tell us about, about their car cream puff. They have names for their cars. They care about their cars, and so
Wait a minute.
we
Other people do that? My
they
family
do.
names their cars. Other people do that as well?
Absolutely, absolutely, everybody. And the funny thing, let me tell you, everybody wants to see the process until they see the process of fixing their car. And it's like watching surgery, and it's like you have their baby in the back of our shops. That's why we don't like people to go to the back of our shops to see the process, because
Yeah.
they would be shocked at what we do to
Yeah.
tear down a vehicle. And like you say, all of the parts that we deal with, first of all, our goal is to fix as many parts as we can rather than replace them. It all comes to one single point, one single, I call it pinch point, and that's us. Is that if you have an accident in your vehicle, is that what our role is that we are extending the life of your vehicle through, and that's a very environmentally friendly thing to do, or we are responsibly disposing of your vehicle, which is also an environmentally responsible thing to do. And that's what we see our role at Caliber in doing, is that we build processes and procedures, of course, to fix your car where we can. And if not, then we are making sure that all the parts go to responsible disposal and hopefully back into some areas. Like one of the things we're doing right now, which I think is really interesting, is that the bumper covers in particular. So first of all, we have a repair methodology for those. We have
Mhm.
welders at every one of our locations.
You have
So
plastic welders?
plastic welders, the actual
Okay.
machines. We've equipped every one of our locations with plastic welders. So hopefully we can fix that bumper and keep it from being replaced on your car. But if we can't, if it's too beat up and we have to replace it, then now we're actually working with one of our vendor partners on recycling those bumper covers instead of sending them off to landfill. And so that's some of the cutting edge stuff that we're doing at Caliber to really fulfill our role of being an environmentally responsible company.
So are you recycling those into new bumpers or just recycling, like grinding the plastics and make it into maybe something else?
So our partner that we're working with is actually working on returning them to the same or up in the plastics recycling chain. So they're
Gotcha.
doing some really cool things. So instead of downcycling, right, which it typically happens, so they turn it into things like park benches and others. Our goal is to work with them to find a way to put that bumper back into the full life cycle, so that ultimately the pellets, the plastic pellets that come out of it, would be turned back to a manufacturer of a bumper and make it truly a circular turn here.
Yeah, and that's the key. I mean, that's the key in all recycling is to not instantly downcycle something, right?
Yes.
If that bumper's been, I mean, there's only so many times you can recycle that bumper and it still has the tensile strength, et cetera, to pass, safety inspections, etc., to be a bumper again. And that's when you make the move down to sideways cycling or down cycling or whatever it happens to be, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that's the case, and that's why I asked that, because it's an important consideration when people think about supporting I guess supporting recycling. Is it just because you recycle doesn't mean you're necessarily doing all that you can. It may be the right thing, but it may not be 100% the right thing, right? I
that's right.
mean, taking a first run bumper and turning it into, like you said, a park bench isn't the case, because cars aren't made out of it. You can't make like a couch out of the back end of a new Lexus anymore, like you could a
Yeah, it
57
sounds like
Chevy,
it sounds
right?
like a challenge. I think we should try that. But no, absolutely, point taken.
Yeah,
You really can't. But our goal is really that anything that comes off the vehicle is we think about, well, first of all, we think about our repair process itself, right? What are we
yeah,
using in the repair process? So we're using waterborne paints, which are low VOC. And friendlier for the environment from the production side and to the environmental side, the impact side. And then, like I mentioned, the plastic welders that we have at all of our locations, really being thoughtful about the entire process. And when we take oil out of your vehicle or coolant out of your vehicle, we're re-recycling those too. So we have another partner that takes those liquids and re-recycles them. And if you haven't been to a re-recycling plant, I encourage you to go. They're very, very cool. I was at our partner's plant, which is just outside of Chicago.
yeah.
Unfortunately, it was last year in July. And I wouldn't say that was necessarily the time I would go again, but it was the hottest day
Yeah.
of the year in Chicago last year, walking a 40-acre re-recycling plant there that they're incredibly proud of, and they should be. But again, we could see where the oil was coming from our vehicles and being turned back into usable. Actually, it's the product that they're producing is better than they're very proud of their products. They definitely upcycle the oil that they take from us.
Yeah, and people don't understand that you can actually do that. That oil is very, very useful, and recycling it is very, very important. And it's also important to not cheat and just dump it behind your garage.
That's right, and that's why
uh,
we make sure that we don't, and we invest
yeah,
a lot of time, money, and resources in our environmental practices. But that tells our sustainability story too, is that we know these communities that we live and work in. I mean, again, we live and work in these communities.
yeah. I think people know this, but most of that car is plastic, right?
Yeah, yeah,
A darn good portion of it is actually, and it's funny because you say, the bumper cover, right? Because the bumper used to be the bumper. In it,
yeah.
that was it, right? I mean, it was that, and it was attached to the frame. Now, if you like, on my truck, it broke part of that bumper cover off,
Oh yeah,
and you can see there's quite intricate infrastructure underneath that
hundred
bumper that
percent.
gone.
Yeah, and
It's
sensors,
crazy.
and don't forget all the sensors that are in there now.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, I mean, that leads me to, by back in the day when I'd buy, when I was a teenager and stuff, you'd buy a stereo. I was one of those that bought the stereo with the least amount of little gadgets on it as possible, because the belief was that if it just does one thing, then it does it very, very well. But if it does 10, then it does them all mediocre. So when I buy a truck, it's just truck. It's not like it's not loaded.
Yeah.
Too many things can go wrong for me
Oh
on
yeah,
that.
yeah,
So
yeah. No, I totally get that. Totally get that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So are you? How long have you guys been recycling bumpers and other parts of the car? Right, there's got to be other parts of the car that are also things that need to be recycled. Some of those cars, I imagine, when you total, if the car is totaled, you bring it in there, and you're working with the insurance companies, right, to say, okay, over X amount of money and car value, it's totaled, right?
Yeah.
It's not worth, you know, that. But so there's fabrics, there's foams, there's all kinds of things that are in that car that people might not realize. You guys have to deal with all that stuff as well, right?
We do, we do. So we don't do it ourselves, but we have a national partner that we work with who takes the vehicles that are totaled and again responsibly recycles them. So for the parts that can be taken off and put back into use, There's a huge market for recycled parts that come off of totaled vehicles, and they handle all of that for us.
Yeah, and so you guys, when I look at your title, right, you're covering the E and the S and the G in ESG, right? It's all there, and people wouldn't expect that in an auto body shop where you're just a bunch of grease monkeys who didn't go to college, right?
Look, that's fair. That's actually a really good point that I want to talk about just a little bit about look, college. I went to college, okay,
Yeah.
but I will tell you that we have an apprenticeship program where, of course, we're providing alternatives and really high-paying alternatives to people with life skills that they can take anywhere, fully transferable. We have a paid apprenticeship program also that we're doing, which goes
Wow.
into the S, the social part of my
Yeah.
job,
Yeah.
is that we
Fantastic.
have an apprenticeship program that's been in place since 2022. We pay you to learn. It's a year-long program, and at the end of it, you come out of there being able to turn a wrench on a vehicle and fully transferable skills that you can take anywhere. And those are things like, if you think about, and I don't want to, knock our big tech friends, we need them too.
No, no,
But
no,
you look
not
at
at all.
you look at layoffs these days, and they're laying off people, by the thousands. And those are techies that thought they had a really great career and that they could own this. Well, when you come out of our apprenticeship program, you have a skilled trade that is yours for your life. And a lot of our technicians, when you get a few years of experience under your belt, you're making six figures, and a lot of people don't know that. And
Yeah,
also,
it's
yeah,
a huge point. Please continue. Go ahead.
yeah, and it's a skill that's really in need, and we're facing a huge shortfall of it. Our program is the largest of its kind in the country. We have about 2,000 apprentices in our program at any given moment around the country, and it takes about a year to get through our program, and at the end of it, you're graduating with ICAR recognized certifications, your AC 609 training. You can go to work for anybody. We want you to work for us, of course, but
Sure.
you can go to work for anybody and control your destiny, provide for your family, and really do great things with your life, all without having the burden, in a lot of ways, of $100,000 or more in having gotten a degree in what, underwater basket weaving. I mean, to use an old phrase. And then what do you do with that? You work
I
for an
think
employer
I think we had a couple linebackers at Ohio State that took that course that have
like
their
clapping for
degrees.
credit was in my background too. I get it, but but again, we're providing an opportunity for people who have this interest that is non-traditional. It is they don't want to go to the 4-year route, a 4-year college route. We give them an alternative for life skills, a trade that is theirs. They own it. It's something they can take anywhere. And again, we're just so proud of the people in the program, people who run the program, and to be able to do this. And we have graduated now. I think this year we'll hit our 2000th apprentice
Wow.
graduating from the program. And
Nice.
so it's a huge investment for the company. And again, it's something that we're very proud of doing, but it hits right in that social part of our contribution to not only our sector, but also to, we think, the broader society in general.
No, 100% does because you hit on so many different, very important points in what you just said, which you said very, very well and very, very clearly. And many of those are coming to light right now, given the circumstances of the Gen Zers and the millennials and where the economy is right now. I see more and more of what I actually saw when I was in high school of people kind of going, well, wait a minute, why are you spending all this money in college and getting all this debt? Do you realize you can make a really good living in the trades in quotation marks, and they're highly skilled and highly respectable jobs that you can make a really good career out of. And oh, by the way, we're running out of those people that are doing that because everybody thinks they have to go to college or they're just not a contributor to society or somehow they're less. And that's such a falsehood. It's not even funny.
It
Uh,
is. It is on so many fronts, and you mentioned the term grease monkey, and
yeah,
that's something that we bristle at just a little bit, just a little bit.
no, I know you do, and that's why I know you do, and that's why I said it
Yeah,
because I mean it's an old term. When I was a kid, you were mechanic or auto body guys. They were grease monkeys. They were the guys that were in the vocational part of the high school or whatever it was, and it's ridiculous because there, that term and stuff like that is like, these guys are the people, and gals are the people that couldn't go to college. Well, no, that they're actually probably a lot smarter than the people that did go to college,
Oh my gosh.
and like you
Yeah.
said, got a degree in philosophy or something like this, and now they have huge debt and they can't pay for it, and are not contributing to society in nearly the same level of value as the people that work for you.
Well, they're
I mean,
struggling. They struggle. But
yeah,
you tie into one of our mission is actually to change the image of the automotive services industry.
right on.
And
Hey, look,
yeah,
trucking for 36 years, bro. I know a
yeah,
bad image.
100%, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And
yeah,
things have changed. And if people went into one of our centers today, I think they'd be astounded.
yeah,
We just, again, so turning a little bit back to the environmental side, last year in December, we just completed an LED lighting retrofit in every one of our centers across the United States. And so our centers are well lit, clean, technology driven centers now. That if you talk about the Gen Zers and attracting this new workforce, they are amazed at the amount of technology they actually have to deal with to fix a car, because
yeah.
repair procedures and all those things, you used to take a manual off the shelf, right, and look things up.
Yes, yes,
Now the car will tell you the repairs it needs. You
yeah.
plug it in, you go online, you understand the repair procedure, you can visualize the repair procedure. That's very Gen Z savvy about this technology they have to deal with. And then they get to go be artists. Then they get to go look at that bumper and they can see it for what it should be, what it should look like, and they can do it. So they can take a repair procedure from the computer and they get to use their hands and equipment, to state of the art equipment, to do their artistry, which is to really make the car what it was when it came into the shop or before it came into the shop. And
Right.
it's just an amazing. We call them artists. In fact, artisans are techs, because they can look at a bumper, and I can never do this, but they can, and that's a skill. I mean, it's this beautiful blend of technology and hands-on and just vision, and they're amazing people.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic stuff. And the argument back in the day, or not, well, I guess it was back in the day, but it was who Zen in the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. I don't know if you ever
Right,
read that,
of course.
right? But part of that argument by Piercing was, you should not be allowed to go to college until you work in a trade for like 5 years. And he's
Yeah,
not wrong.
yeah,
I read that and I was like, why was this controversial? This actually makes a hell of a
100%.
lot of sense.
Yeah.
A hell of a lot of sense. A hell of a lot of sense.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think apprenticeships are making a comeback. I talk about it in this term. I know this sounds really funny, but I just think it describes it so well. In my view, I just kind of high level it and say it's a blue collar renaissance is really what we're coming to, because people are understanding that we're facing a silver tsunami. So we have a lot of people in these spaces, of skilled trades that are retiring.
yeah,
You're not
yeah,
bringing the new people in fast enough to fill that gap, and we're all paying for it. The price of
yes,
everything is going up because you don't
yes.
have enough labor to fill those jobs.
You're 100% right, because when the when the population changes from like a pyramid, you got your younger generation supporting
Yeah,
the top, and it changes to a smokestack, which is kind of where we're at, and we're kind of going, towards a funnel, if you will. That's where we're starting to go into that funnel area where you, like you said, you don't have the support mechanisms for the bottom, and that's one of the pressures on it. The I guess one of the savings grace might not be the best example, or it's sad, but it's true. Is the technology is hitting, like you said, the white collar, the degreed is where the layoffs are happening,
yeah,
right? You can't AI your way into a new bumper.
yeah,
You can't, and right. And so, back in the day when it was, oh, robotics are coming in, oh, don't worry about it, the blue collar auto worker is safe. It wasn't the case, and they were replaced. This is a totally different layoff situation.
100%.
This is a going to college to do these things is not necessarily your best way to go. The trades are what we need, and they make great money. And like you said, the vision of them needs to change, and that's where I was going with saying you really hit much more than just environmental,
Yeah,
the social, the the S and the G part of what you do there, and just expand that across society and all businesses is every bit as important as the E. Save the E
100%.
and you don't deal with the S and G, you're still screwed, right? Right?
Yeah, yeah, because there's no one to do the E4.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
You
I've never thought about
gotta
that.
somebody's got to be there, right? You got to be hitting that. Yeah, no, that is fantastic stuff. I love what you're doing there because it's, and everybody should take that model. I mean, you've got your motto there. You can have all the right strategy in the world. If you don't have the right culture, you're dead. It reminds me of, I think it was Walt Whitman who said, even if you're on the right path, you can get run over if you're just standing there. Right? You got to be doing something. You got to be moving forward. And that coupled with the industry that you're in and the outward perception of it and your title and what you're doing there just makes it so interesting that this is reaching into these realms of our society, which I guess is a biased and kind of a slap in the face view. But I have to admit that's kind of the view I had when we first started talking, right? And that's got to change in order for these type of jobs and what you're doing there to be regarded as important as they actually really are, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I view it as I'm so fortunate to be in my role at this company at this time. I'm obviously not the spring chicken, and I'm looking at this as legacy. Is when I retire, when I move on from Caliber, what do I want to see happen? And I want to make sure that we've set ourselves up on this pathway where we are influencing not only just the industry and leading the industry, but actually having an impact on society. I want to look around, in 5 years, 10 years time and see that this has really just blossomed even further. I mean, I'm so proud of where we are now, but I think that, this company, its ownership groups, its investors are all aligned on changing this, on making sure this impact is long lasting. And we make substantial investments in this to make sure that this program is working and our overall ESG program is really something that's hitting on all cylinders. And I just, I love talking about it, obviously. So I think I have the best job in the world. I mean, other than yours, right?
Well, yeah. Well, everyone's jealous of me. That's for sure. But so let me ask you this. Are you starting to see any trends or changes in the people coming in and taking you up on this paid apprenticeship? Is there more of an influx now, or over the years that you guys have been doing it, do you notice trends according to the economy, or do you see a different tide coming in at this point? Or
Yeah, we are super fortunate that we have our one limiting factor in the size of our program is mentors. And so we have tons of applicants.
yeah,
In fact, the people who run the apprenticeship program don't like me talking about how to apply for the program because that's not really our issue right now. Once
yeah,
we got off the ground, because again, we've been doing this for almost 2 years now. And so at the beginning, getting people to understand that, wait, I don't have to bring my own tools. You're paying me to do this, and you give me health and welfare benefits. You give me retirement benefits from day one. They're like, wait a minute, there's got to be a catch. There is no catch. We want you to be wildly successful in our program. And once we got over that hump of getting people to understand this is a paid apprenticeship program, you're on the team from day one. We give you all of these things. We give you a tool set. We set you up for success in your career. Is that once we got past that, we now have this flywheel that's really self-perpetuating. So the more people who know about the program, the more applicants we have. And again, the single limiting factor is the number of mentors that we have. And
mm,
so we're working on that end of the spectrum too, of retaining our silver techs, of retaining experienced techs, attracting new experienced techs who can really build this program even further than it is now. We would love to see 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 apprentices going at the same time. And, we can get there. But again, it has been, hard at the beginning, but now it's a little bit easier for us because people now know the program. They've been through the program and they can talk about the program.
that's awesome. So when you talk about the industry that you're in, and obviously the great programs that you guys have instituted and are being quite successful at and growing, both the apprenticeship program that you're doing, which I believe is every bit as important, as I said before, as the recycling. Let's take all of that together. Do you see an influence in the industry that you guys are having? Do you see the industry accepting this more and more? I'm assuming, because I've never run across this looking at the industry, that you guys are really on the forefront in doing this. Are you are you seeing adoption of some of these and competitors taking note, going, these guys are doing it right?
We do. So we see a couple of our competitors that, and again, I just want to stress a little bit that we have a special place, we think, in this space only
Yeah.
because we are the largest by a factor of 2.5. So
Oh,
our
okay.
next,
Wow. All
yeah,
right. So you don't really have a direct competitor nationally, but regionally, I guess. Yeah.
yeah. So we do. So there are other really great names in the space, and they also have some apprenticeship programs. They're just not of the scale that ours is.
I
And
got you.
again, we hope that we're inspiring other people to do this because it's going to be a whole of industry endeavor to do this. And so we think that we are doing what we need to be doing as the largest player in the space, and we do encourage others to do the same thing that we're doing.
Yeah, so I got it. That's awesome. So in the industry that I'm in, we just went through fights at the really in the at the federal government on non competes, et cetera. Right.
Ooh, yeah.
And I started my career at Roadway Express back in the '80s, and at that time, Roadway was known to have the absolute premier management training program, and so they pumped out most of the executives that left and went to other companies. Is that a concern, or do you let's like, hey, rising tide lifts all boats?
So yeah, that's a complex one for us. Like I said, we hope that we earn the technicians' commitment to stay with
Yeah,
us after we train
right.
them. We're seeing that in our numbers. Our apprentices who we train and their mentors both have higher overall retention rates than those who are either not apprentices or did not mentor a technician. We think it really builds on itself. It's building commitments to each other, to the family we have here, and to the company. And again, our job is to earn people's time with us, earn their time, earn them to stay with us. We do not have non competes that tie people. Our program, again, is not one that we have any payback on. There is no agreement that people have to repay our investment in them. And it is quite an investment that we make in getting an apprentice through the entire program, the 1 year program, including their mentor wages.
Yeah.
But again, we don't tie people with non-competes or repayment agreements or any of those things. We don't. We believe you need to operate differently. And again, that's why I go back to our purpose and our culture being so important. Is we need to earn your commitment to us.
Yeah, no, this is fantastic. That's exactly what I wanted to discuss with you, because that it's a big topic, right? You don't chain people to their desk. If you do proper in your S&G, right? You actually can attract and retain the highest and best talent and actually have happy employees. Isn't that a bizarre notion?
Weird, so weird, so
So
weird.
strange.
Is treat people right and they'll stay.
That's
And
weird.
look,
Invest in them and it comes back to you twofold. That's
so
very
weird.
strange.
Yeah,
I don't know where you came up with that, Eddie.
it's almost like I've seen that somewhere before. But we also have some inspiring stories to tell. You hit on a leadership track there.
Yeah.
Our one of our most recent CEOs, who was just the predecessor to our current CEO, uh, he actually started out sweeping floors in one of our centers.
Oh,
And
wow.
then he
Nice.
moved up through the ranks and became the CEO of the company. Our chief operating officer, current one, similar story, came up from the centers into being the chief operating officer of this size of company, a $7 billion company. And so we have those. So if you aspire to not just be a technician, and we love them too and need them, and people want to be career techs, we love that. And if you want to go into management, we offer those tracks too.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, there's actual upward mobility in where you guys are at. And I agree with you. It's that hiring from within and building up is always best. It almost is always best. It's rare unless you bring somebody in from the industry who can bring a ton of knowledge from a different perspective and support. There's always room for that type of stuff. But growing people from within, I swept the floors and now I'm CEO. That's fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
really where things go. So let me ask you this: is you guys invest a lot of money, obviously, in the technology and the people, and we just talked about the people in the apprenticeship programs, right? And so when you do that, you hire somebody like myself in as a apprenticeship, right? Um, there's a lot of investment there, and the ROI is not immediate, right? And the same on the recycling part of things, right? You're adding expenses and you're adding programs that are not necessarily the business's core competency, right? And we see this, I'm sure you see it because you're in the space. So many people across the industries, all the different industries, who really, you know, are against ESG in the fact that they think it's just it's a sham, it's some sort of con game or something. I don't understand that aspect of it, but I do understand their fear that they're going to spend themselves into, oblivion if they don't, if they adopt all these things. But that's not the case, right? The proper investment of it is just good business sense, right? Have you found that to be true there?
It's absolutely true. Look, we made a very smart decision, I think, about a year and a half ago, to change how we talked about this from ESG, which is a politically loaded term because of how people have weaponized it, but we call it
Yes.
sustainability. So these are sustainable business practices,
Right.
and that's how we look at it: is that these are investments, but we also demand an ROI, and we prove out our ROI on these various programs as we're doing it. So we call it smart sustainability, really, is what we're engaged in. So it's doing the right thing and being smart about how we do it. But we make sure to ground it in real business strategy and results.
Mm.
And we can see it. You talked about the payback on our apprenticeship program. Well, after about 2 months to 3 months in the program, our technicians are actually turning a wrench. They're actually building hours. And last year, we had a significant percentage of our hours that were delivered by our apprentices. So by a few months into our program, it starts to be self-sustaining. So our investment in the program is paying off. So
I
yeah,
got
we
you.
have the investment is high at the beginning, but eventually the lines intersect, and then they're actually earning their way through the apprenticeship program
Yeah.
by learning their skilled trade. The same thing on the environmental side is that we make sure, for example, I mentioned our LED lighting retrofit. Well, that was the right thing to do for a number of reasons, including reducing our greenhouse gas emission footprint. However, it also had an ROI, because those kilowatt hours that we are avoiding using by switching to LEDs also saves money. So that's
Yeah. All
I
right.
don't
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I don't
Yeah.
get it. I don't get a get out of jail free card by saying, "Oh, well, that's a sustainable thing to do." That's when the business people look. I report to the chief financial officer. Do
Yeah.
you think I don't have accountability for results?
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no program that I can put out there that I can say, "Oh, there is no ROI. It's just we got to feel good about this." That doesn't fly. So again, call it smart sustainability. Stay away from the buzzwords of the E, the S, and the G. But even the E, the S, and the G, why investors still find that incredibly important is because at its core, it's risk management.
A
And
hundred
so,
percent.
and that's what
Yes.
it's really about.
Yes, it is. You nailed it right on the head. That's where I was going to go with this. It's good business practice is actually ESG. It is actually smart sustainability, as you're talking about. It's just good practice to develop your talent from the inside, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And
And
treat your people right.
treat your people right and eliminate wastes and inefficiency. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what you're doing, right?
yeah,
I mean, that's good, sound business. It's not this evil thing meant to try and tear down the businesses and extract tax money from them or something. As
exactly right. Exactly
yeah,
right. So that's how we treat it. And again, we are a privately held company, so we have private equity firms behind us who look at sustainability as I mean, not risk creation, but risk management and value creation.
yes,
So
absolutely,
they expect that we're going to manage our environmental, social, and governance practices in such a way that we are creating value. We're not becoming a toxic asset. We're doing the opposite. And so again, there is value in what we're doing, and that's why all the naysayers and look, it's fun to poke holes at ESG,
sure.
but when you look at it from the right lens and talk about it in the right way and approach it in the right way as it's good risk management, then you get out of the politics.
Yeah. No, agree 100%. Agree 100%. Eddie, this has been fantastic, and I hope people listened through this entire thing and learn some things, because it's incredibly interesting, and I love what you guys are doing there at Caliber, and what you're doing. It's fantastic stuff, my friend. What do you want to leave the audience with?
Well, you started off on the right foot by saying, hey, like if you've picked up anything from this, I think it was probably the last point that we just talked about,
Yeah,
which is why do you do sustainability and getting back to the core of what it's about. And that ESG is not some evil, it's actually good risk management. So I hope that people listen to that and pick up a few pointers about programs that they can do. And again, it's been my pleasure in getting to know you and getting to talk to you today. So thank you so much for the opportunity.
I appreciate it, and I'm going to give you a break, and I'm not going to mention the apprenticeship program. You should go to Caliber and sign up for it right away, uh, so that you won't get any evil phone calls from your people.
From the apprenticeship program saying, stop, uncle.
cut, cut. Hey, everybody, thank you for tuning in, downloading, and listening, watching, wherever you're at, the Sustainiacs. And thank you to Eddie Hightower, my new very good friend, who's going to fix my truck, I think, in a week or so, something like
Let
that.
us
But
know how we do. We always like the feedback.
I'm sure you guys are going to
You
do
know where to
fantastic.
find me.
I did. Yeah, I got your number, brother. I know where
I
you
know
live.
people. I know people.
I'm gonna walk in there and go. Eddie said, give me the special treatment over here."
Exactly. They'll say just like everybody else.
Just like everybody else. I love it, my friend. Peace and love.
To you too.